All right, hey everybody, this is Aaron and Robert here with Geeks of the Web here on Season 1, Episode 2 still of Talkin Geek. I think that's the name we're sticking with.
Talkin Geek.
Yeah, Talkin Geek.
Be confident in it.
Talking Geek. I mean, is that better?
I don't know why you had to go deep voice there.
That's confidence.
Sure.
It's confident.
Okay.
I mean, when I talk like this, I don't think that's confident.
Well, I mean, maybe just don't talk like that. I don't know.
So hope all of you are having fun and had a good weekend. So lots happened. I mean, first of all, did you do anything fun so far?
No, I've been working and everything's boring. But nothing's boring if you're Disney, Sony, and Marvel and all that stuff. I mean, let's just dive right in.
Yeah,
Disney
true.
and Sony, you know, are basically they're in a Mexican standoff right now.
They really are. I mean, Disney. Both of them have money.
Yeah, I guess, and they would both like more.
Yeah,
you know, that's kind of standard.
And
right?
yeah, and both of them want one person.
Yeah, so I feel like we'll lay the groundwork a little bit. Most people probably know this, but back in the 90s when Marvel was like going bankrupt, they licensed the rights to a lot of their characters for movies and to let them, you know, be basically used in movies by other companies.
Yep.
And so Sony acquired the rights to Spider-Man back then.
Yep.
So the Tobey Maguire movies, all made by Sony. The Andrew Garfield movies, all made by Sony. So about 5 years ago, you know, the second, you know, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie was critically panned. It didn't make as much money as they were hoping for.
Shit, it's all been set on
and
fire.
It was not a good movie. And so Sony was clearly, they were looking to move in a different direction.
Yeah.
They wanted a new Spider-Man. Well, at the time, you know, Marvel, the MCU was already rolling.
Yep.
We'd already seen 2 Avengers movies, Age of Ultron, and, you know, Captain America Civil War was coming out. And so, you know, the directors, the Russo brothers of Captain America Civil War, were like, well, we'd love to have Spider-Man, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
And the powers that be, you know, Kevin Feige with Marvel Studios and the rest of Disney approached Sony about coming to an agreement, coming to a deal.
Yep.
Shockingly, they made the deal. I mean, I think nobody expected that to happen. And basically the deal was this, is that they set it up, I think it was supposed to be 6 movies, a 6-movie deal, where it was going to be 3 solo Spider-Man movies and 3 movies where Spider-Man was in, you know, basically Marvel Studios produced movies.
Right.
So the solo Spider-Man movies would still be produced by Sony, but Marvel Studios would assist, and then the Marvel Studios movies, you know, were obviously being put out by them, but they were allowed to use Sony's character of Spider-Man and other Spider-Man characters.
Right.
And in the Spider-Man movies, Marvel characters would cross over and be used.
Exactly.
And, you know, they both still kind of retained control over their own characters, so Sony had final say in anything that happened with Spider-Man in the Marvel movies, and vice versa. You know, Iron Man appeared in Spider-Man Homecoming. Obviously, Nick Fury was a heavy presence in Spider-Man Far From Home, and there's obviously a few other characters as well that crossed over, but, you know, those studios still had the primary control over what happened with those characters.
Exactly.
And most people kind of assume that, you know, Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige was driving the bus. You know, they were in charge of those storylines. Well, the success of Spider-Man Far From Home, after Spider-Man has already appeared in those 3 Marvel Studios movies, being Civil War, Infinity War, and then Endgame. And now 2 Spider-Man solo movies have come out, being Homecoming and Far From Home. Far From Home being the most successful Spider-Man movie that's ever been, $1.1 billion. And so the original agreement was basically very light on financial sharing. You know, the Sony still had all of the costs of making the movie, of their solo movies, and Disney got a 5%, basically 5% of you know, first dollar gross, which don't ask me what that means.
No, but I think Disney owns the merchandise rights.
Yes, so all of that they still own. It's only movie rights. It's only film rights that Sony has any control over. So basically, this being the most profitable Spider-Man movie ever, you know, depending on which report you read, and it was originally reported by Deadline, Disney wanted to approach Sony about renegotiating that deal and basically saying, you know, we have helped make this the most successful Spider-Man movie ever.
Yep.
And so as we move forward, we want a little bit more than 5%.
Right.
And according to the reports I've read, they were looking to basically co-finance it.
Yes.
And so they would both put in, the 50-50 and then split the profits 50-50.
Right.
To which Sony replied, no thank you. We can stick with our current agreement where you get 5%.
Right.
And at that point, negotiations fell apart, according to multiple reports. Now, we'll kind of see what happens. I want to get into this a little bit of what you think will happen on the business standpoint, but obviously this has a major effect on a lot of the storylines that were set up by those Spider-Man movies, so I want to talk about that too. So there's been some additional reports. It's been 5-6 days. Sony has made some comments about it. Tom Holland has made some comments about it. Kevin Feige has made comments about it. And basically everyone is saying at this point, right now, that's where we're at. That Spider-Man will not be in the MCU anymore. That third Spider-Man movie that was supposed to connect with Marvel is done. They're still going to make Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland. That's what they've said. But we're not expecting any more crossover in the MCU, according to basically every party. Yeah. Now, whether or not that's negotiating tactics still, are they still at the table? Are they still working on it? I guess we'll see. I have my opinion. I've been talking for a while, so I'll let you talk now.
I mean, my thing is this. So I know everyone's like, "Oh, Disney is just being money hungry. They wanting more money," which is fine. But they're at least splitting the cost. We'll put $500 million, you put $500 million, or whatever the case is. $200 million. The movie's like what, about 50, 60, 70 million to make or so.
Oh no,
not more.
Yeah, I mean, the superhero movies, you're talking $200 million about to make. So I mean, and that's before you even talk about like marketing costs and all that stuff. So.
Yeah. And I get it, and to me, yes, Disney's a little hungry, but let's also think about this. Part of the contract was they lent them Kevin Feige. I can never say. They lent them Kevin, and Kevin did not get paid to do Far From Home or Homecoming. That was part of the negotiations. He is.
Rough life.
That extra couple of million is gone. But I mean, you know what? Everybody wants to. I mean, we joke about it, but everybody wants to get paid for what they do.
Sure.
Like, no matter what. I mean, he's not suffering. Yeah, the guy still has 6 mansions, I'm sure, and owns an island somewhere. But in the end of the day, name someone who's going to do something for free. No one's really going to do it for free.
Sure.
So yes, I think they should negotiate to maybe give him a pay for even the other thing was he didn't get any credit in the movies. So give him his crediting rights. I mean, that's also a big thing too.
I don't think that's accurate. I
believe
on the Spider-Man movies he did get credited. Okay. Now, supposedly he also did consult on Venom, but did not, and Spider-Verse, but did not. How much influence he had on either of those movies is kind of suspect, and he did not get any credit on those. But I believe he did get credit because they still threw up the Marvel Studios logo on both of those movies, and so I'm pretty sure Kevin Feige still got credit.
So that's a good thing. So hopefully,
tell me in the comments if I'm wrong.
Yeah, let us know. I mean, the main thing too is he didn't get paid, and then of course Disney's only getting 5%. And I know the argument from the other side is, well, they got merchandise rights. Well, when Sony bought Spider-Man, they didn't buy merchandising rights.
Right.
So that's null and void. You can't really use that as an argument.
Yeah, it's a different conversation.
So I know everyone, that's where the other side is, because some people want to blame Disney for all of this. Some people want to blame Sony. My opinion right now is if you want to make money, you should work together. That's what I always say. Collaborate and work together.
So this is what I'll say, is that, I think it's clear that solo Spider-Man movies with the interconnection with the MCU have been more successful critically and financially than any Spider-Man movies that came out before.
Exactly.
But, how much of that do we attribute to the MCU influence?
Exactly.
And how much is so I still, and I know he's yours, Spider-Man is the most popular character that Marvel has. I mean, everybody knows Spider-Man, everybody loves Spider-Man. You think about these characters that have become huge, like Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, they were not on the same level as a Spider-Man.
No.
Spider-Man was the one that everybody knew, and certainly, is one of the most popular characters. So there were 5 live-action Spider-Man movies made by Sony before Marvel Studios ever got involved, and all of them turned a profit to varying degrees.
Exactly.
So if you're Sony, if you're looking at, let's say, the proposed 50-50 deal, right? Let's say you're looking at that, and your last movie that you made, it made around $700 million. Maybe it cost you $200. and made 700. Now that's I'm fudging with the math there. I'm just using this to make a point. You're going to clear $500 million. Let's say that, right? Okay, so that's pretty good. You put in 2, you get out 7, you get 5.
Yeah.
So now this most recent movie, let's say it costs $200 million again. Let's use that as a baseline to make $1.1 billion. So overall, that's clearing $900 million, of which they got to give 5% to Marvel. That's a pretty good deal. That's a lot more than $500 million.
Exactly.
Now, Marvel comes in and says, hey, next time we want to split the profits. So now instead of, giving them a little bit of 900, now you're having to split that 900. All of a sudden, the pie's down to 450 million.
Right.
Now, you only put in 100 instead of 200 this time. So now, I'm putting in 100, I clear 450. So my profit margin might be up a little bit. Yeah. But in actual dollars, I'm getting $50 million less.
Yeah.
And so even though it might make sense from a financial perspective, you also have to look at Sony. This is their last big tentpole. They don't have any other major franchises. The only other major franchise that they have is James Bond, and that one has kind of been dwindling in terms of its success and popularity. So when you look at it from that perspective, I understand why Sony might say 50-50 is not what they're looking for.
Right.
I still am kind of the opinion that I think that this is gonna land somewhere in between that 5 and 50. I think maybe 20, 25, maybe even up to 30% I could see Sony agreeing to. Now, one of the really interesting things that I've been reading about is, just like Disney purchased Fox recently, Sony Studios, their movie division, has not been as successful as they wanted it to be. And so there's been rumblings for a while that somebody's going to purchase them. Not necessarily Disney, but that they're going to be purchased by another company, whether that be Amazon or Netflix or something like that.
Someone with money.
Now, if that were to happen, Spider-Man's rights revert back to Marvel.
Yes.
Because Sony made that deal. And if Sony no longer is operating movies, if they're not making movies anymore, then those rights will revert back to Disney and Marvel.
Exactly.
So the question then becomes, what is this going to look like? Are we, are they going to come to an agreement beforehand? Are we going to have to wait a few years while Sony makes additional Spider-Man movies that aren't connected, and then the rights revert back to Disney, and now it's really weird trying to reintroduce them again? So I don't know. I mean, it's really going to be interesting.
And the whole thing is, there's a lot that none of us will ever know. Behind closed doors, these conversations.
I know everything. I'm the watcher. I'm Watu.
You do it? I knew it! I knew he was Watu. I knew it all this time, guys. I knew it. But the thing is, I know everyone's like, well, 50 is a lot. Well, counter. As a businessman, we all know there's got to be some counters somewhere that we probably haven't heard. But let's face it, someone at Disney may have leaked it. Someone at Sony may have leaked it. Probably. Because this brings the whole controversy up. And guess what? We're all talking about it now. Yes, and Sony's name is out there. They don't care what kind of publicity they're getting. They're getting it. Because now people are like, that don't know anything may want to be like, well, what's this Spider-Man character? Let me go rent the movie. Let me go buy the movie. And guess what? Now they just made a profit off some guy that doesn't care about any of this. So you all gotta remember, this is also tactics. There's always some business tactics. Someone's accidentally leaked it, or it happened to be heard by this one janitor walking by who heard it. No, it's it's rumors right now, guys. Because there's easily Sony can come back, like you said, make a negotiation, maybe somewhere like 5 to 50%. Maybe they'll come back and say, you know what, we want merchandising rights. Maybe we want 10% of that too. They might try to come out somewhere else. You know, you don't know. So right now, I think we said this before, it's going to be some time before we figure out what's going to really happen, where Spider-Man's going to go, because the fact is, Marvel was pinning him to be their child, the next Iron Man, essentially. Yeah. So I don't think this is a deal that's just happened to happen one day, a meeting, and it's like, hey, we're going to do this. They were planning this out, so I think Disney has a trump card. I'm sure, since early July,
once that movie got in studios and started getting popular, that they started having conversations. That's when all this happened, and so this is coming out, over a month later.
After they filmed, after they knew where they wanted to go with the story.
Yeah. I mean, it's already been in theaters. It's coming out. This story's coming out over. I'm sure that this has been the last month or so of conversations, and it's finally coming out now. D23, which is Disney's personal convention,
big expo,
was just this weekend, and so people were speculating that maybe this was kind of put out in the news cycle so that they could address it at D23. They kind of did, but it was really actually Tom Holland was there because he's in a Pixar movie coming up, so he's contracted with Sony. as Spider-Man, he's Sony's property. He's not a Disney property. So, but he was there because he's in an upcoming Pixar movie. And so he got asked the question, and he kind of said, I love the 5 movies I made. I'm super excited about continuing to be Spider-Man moving forward with Sony.
Right.
And Kevin Feige, in Marvel's panel was asked about it and basically said, we love the 5 movies we made, and we're going to move forward, and that's Sony's character, and, we'd love to be involved with it, but, we'll see. Sony basically said, Sony's response was actually really interesting, because they were talking about, basically, is Kevin Feige... he's too busy, right? That was it was like, well, he's too busy to be involved anymore, and so we understand that getting Fox's characters, the X-Men and Fantastic Four, now he's just too busy to help out.
That's all it is. That was
really funny.
I love that line because it was like, he's just too busy. He can't do it. He's too busy. So I love the fact that this is happening though, because again, maybe it'll make everybody rethink it, or maybe all of a sudden Disney will be like, yeah, we just spent $6 billion and we bought half of Sony. Who knows? They may just turn around and buy them.
Yeah.
I think that was my favorite meme where it's Winter Soldier and Raccoon, and he's like, how much for Spider-Man? Not for sale. How much for your company?
Right.
Yeah,
it's the riff on Infinity War when he says, how much for the gun, and then, what about the arms? I'll just take it all. There's been a bunch of good ones. I really like the one that was the riff on The Dark Knight.
I think I saw that.
So that's Joker when he's kind of blackmailing the room full of mob leaders, and it's like, how much do you want? Half. You think you can walk in here and just steal from us? Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Well, so I do want to get into, though, let's say it doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Right? And so moving forward in the MCU, no Spider-Man. Sony's got their own movies where they're going to move forward with Spider-Man. So I want to talk about, from a narrative standpoint, what might that look like?
So, with the narrative where it could go, it's going to be interesting because Marvel can easily write off a quick couple of lines like they did in Age of Ultron with Natalie Portman's character.
Can they?
They could.
Because I don't know that they can reference Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I don't know that they can say his name.
They can say Night Monkey is disappeared because he went to go fight off some more crime in outer space or something.
I have no idea.
So, and that's where it does become a little tricky because can they... Kind of looks like at Wanda and Quicksilver. Can they do anything to help write them into it? Wanda and Quicksilver technically were mutants, owned at the time by Fox, but did end up in Avengers Age of Ultron. Because of a rewrite in the comic books, they rewrote their origin story a little bit just to get by that little itty-bitty part of the contract that says we own the mutants. Marvel may have something up their sleeve. We also have the multiverse theory. We don't know what they could have, but it's going to be interesting on how Marvel is going to try to play this off. Kevin has also said plenty of times he wants to take this all to space. If we do a lot of space movies for right now, you never have to worry about mentioning Spider-Man in space. They don't have to be like, oh, Guardians of the Galaxy, hey, that guy's Spider-Man. I don't think they care, because he's on Earth, they'd be in the middle of space somewhere.
Yeah, I think, and I love the space movies that they've come out with through Marvel, and I think that, I'm looking forward to their continuing. Yeah. They're always going to have those Earthbound movies. Right. And Spider-Man Far From Home, really leaned into, Spider-Man is the next Tony Stark. Yeah. Spider-Man is the next Iron Man. That was, so huge. And if you look at his origin in, Homecoming, Civil War, Homecoming, Far From Home, this whole arc that he's had, it is so ingrained with Tony Stark and Iron Man. Both of his villains in his solo movies, their motivations were that they hated Tony Stark and Iron Man. Certainly, his suit has been, it's all Stark tech. Yeah. So, I have, from a narrative perspective, I think that Sony, could get away with not mentioning Happy and Tony and those things. I think they could do it. I think Marvel Studios backed themselves a little bit into a corner. It's going to be hard to just hard cut. Now, the casual fan that just goes to see these movies, they come out every few months and they go, oh, another superhero movie, I want to go see that. Well, they notice. I don't know. But the people watching this show, right, our geek show, the people like us that are so involved in the MCU, we're going to be sitting there going, this is weird. this is awkward. I mean, why aren't you referencing this character anymore?
And the thing is too, like you said, Sony may be able to write off Happy and all them, but at the same time, if they cannot say the name either at all, he did build up that relationship with Happy. That was his father figure. All of a sudden, that he's not there. It's just been me and Aunt May for the last 5 years. Because we can't talk that I had Happy ever around. Or
sure.
You can't talk about
he's dating Aunt May too. And
yeah. You can't talk about any of that. You just, some guy randomly knock on the door and she walks off. You can't show his face. You can't talk about him.
Yeah.
I mean, I think both of them are going to be in trouble. I think you're right. Marvel will be in trouble a little bit more. But I think they can delay it longer because they can say, okay, we're going to put out, Eternals shows, Ms. Marvel, the TV shows. Mm-hmm. We can delay it about a year or so before we really need to start talking about, we need to put Spider-Man in. But at the same time, we also have 2 other franchises. Like you said, they just bought Fox. We have Fantastic Four and X-Men. They can start playing those up.
Yeah.
And those don't have to talk about Spider-Man ever.
And it's true as well that, before they ever got Spider-Man, they were making billion-dollar movies. I mean, the first 2 Avengers came out. Iron Man 3 I think made over $1 billion. Yeah. But I'm just we're at a crossroads in the MCU, right? We just had Endgame. No more Iron Man. No more Captain America. Mm-hmm. From a successful in terms of money making, those were their 2 most successful franchises, and they were the 2 largest characters of the Avengers.
Right.
The Thor movies were successful, but they didn't make a ton of money.
No.
Now Black Panther made a huge amount of money. Guardians of the Galaxy made a lot of money. Captain Marvel made a lot of money. So they have other options. They're going to continue making very successful movies. I don't mean to say that. I just mean the way that both Endgame and Far From Home set it up. They were very much setting Peter Parker up to be a central figure of the Avengers and the MCU moving forward. And now that just appears to not be happening.
And like I said, it'll be interesting to see how long they can also delay before they actually have to. If they don't make a deal, if Sony keeps the rights, it'll be interesting how long Marvel can push out to delay it. Like you said, we have all these other franchises. We can push for a little bit before an Avengers movie comes up and it's like, well, where's the guy we can't mention anymore because he's not with us, The
web slinger.
Yeah.
The wall crawler. Can we call him any of those things? I have no idea.
Well, remember in Spider-Man 2 from Tobey Maguire, they did mention Doctor Strange. And they said the name was taken when they were trying to give Doc Ock a name.
Really?
Yes.
I don't even remember that.
If you look at it, they're like, Doctor or something strange, and J. Jonah's like, yes, but it's taken. And it's like, oh, they actually reference Doctor Strange.
Interesting.
So it's interesting.
I wonder if they had access to that character at that time, and then maybe because they never made a solo movie, it reverted.
That's possible.
Because that's definitely possible as well. And Doctor Strange and Spider-Man have a pretty long history in the comics. It was cool to see them interact in Infinity War. And that's what I'm really is like. I love Peter Parker as a solo character.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
Certainly not as much as you, but I do love him.
Yeah.
But a lot of my interaction with him is him actually interacting with other people, and I always find that so interesting because he's the young kid. He's kind of always looking up to other people, but he also has a very strong code in how he goes about things. And so his relationship with someone like the Punisher is incredibly interesting. Which is very similar to the Punisher-Daredevil relationship. And Spider-Man's relationship with Daredevil is really interesting. I mean, I love the way he plays off of other heroes, and so to now, say, well, you go back to your little corner, and you can have your awesome rogues gallery of villains.
Oh yeah,
including Venom, which was a very successful movie. Whether it was critically good, I enjoyed myself. Did I love it? No, but I enjoyed myself.
I'm right there with you.
I don't know that I want Spider-Man to show up in that Venom universe.
No,
it's just it was a very different type of feel.
Yeah.
They got Morbius apparently is coming out that Sony's putting out.
Damn you, Jared Leto.
I don't trust Sony. That's what it comes down to. Is I don't trust them.
And that's what happened. If you remember with the Tobey Maguire movies, the third film, what's his name? Sam Raimi did not want Venom in it.
No, he did
and
not.
Sony pushed Venom, and then look what we got. We got this character that was literally thrown together, garbage. You had Sam Raimi who had to say, yes, I wanted Venom, but he was so vocal beforehand I will not want Venom. And I feel that's what's going to happen again. Sony's going to push it, and they don't have someone like Kevin saying, well, wait a minute, if we write it this way, look at how this is, you don't have that voice of reason anymore.
Well, the same thing happened with the Andrew Garfield movies. The first one, I didn't mind. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think Andrew Garfield is a great Peter Parker. I thought he was a good Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
But you know, I like that story with the lizard and everything. I thought that was done really well. And then the second movie, it was like, you know, we're gonna throw in a bunch of crazy stuff, and you know, like his parents are now spies, and like now we're gonna, you know, just basically have a laboratory where we can create every villain, and you know, I mean, it was just like what is happening, and you know, a lot of that has come out that was like studio interference, like they again. Kind of like DC has been, it's like, oh, we got to get our universe moving. We got to get everybody in there because look at what Marvel's doing. And it's like, just take the time to tell the stories. People love these characters.
Yeah, 10 years.
I don't trust
Marvel took.
I don't trust Sony.
I don't either. I think
right now.
I think what they're going to do, if they keep it, they're going to rush the Sinister Six movie, screw the whole thing up, lose money. I think they'll actually barely break even or barely make money on that, and then they're going to come back to Disney battered and broken. Sorry, we need to fix this. And so then you give Disney the buying power, though, at that point. Yeah. And they're not going to want to do that. They're going to want to try to go back to that same deal, and so Disney's going to be like, did you not just see that piece of crap you guys just put out? We're not doing this. And Kevin's not working for free.
Yeah, so Sony's playing with fire a little bit. They obviously have a lot of confidence in themselves. And you know, we'll kind of see where this one. Now, there's been a lot of conversation about that, so I feel like we've beaten that horse to death.
A little too much.
We both want Spider-Man back in the MCU. Yes. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, they can make it out. You know, I don't expect another Spider-Man movie until at least 2022. But don't forget that even though Marvel had released their entire slate of Phase 3 movies and Spider-Man wasn't on it. They got the rights, and guess what? Spider-Man showed up with 2 movies in Phase 3. So, you know, just because they released Phase 4 and there was no Spider-Man, that doesn't mean they won't make it work.
And that's true, and that's very true. But like you said, we beat that horse to death. And like you said, though, D23 happened.
Woo.
And
we got some more news. We got some more things.
We do. And everyone knows I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. But
we want to talk about Star Wars. We want to do Star Wars and then jump back.
We'll jump back.
All right, okay.
Because that way we got that little break in this.
All right.
Because you also like Star Wars.
I love Star Wars,
and I like the trailer they showed for The Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian, that trailer looked really cool. It's obviously a Disney Plus show, so we've talked a little bit about that before.
Well, I think it comes out.
It's you know, about a bounty hunter. You know, so Boba Fett wore Mandalorian armor. Okay. Right, so in you know, Star Wars lore, you know, there is a whole planet, Mandalore, with you know, a bunch of, they're kind of a warrior race, and they all pretty much have that armor. So Boba Fett, in the prequels, Jango Fett, which we don't like to talk about, have Mandalorian armor. However, they are not from Mandalore. Okay. And so part of that is that, you know, they clearly were very skilled, or at least Jango Fett was, since Boba Fett might have just taken his dad's, who knows. Yeah. You know, to be able to get Mandalorian armor, you know, either from a Mandalorian or from the planet, you know, the theory is that obviously he was very skilled to be able to pull that off, because Mandalorians are very protective of like their culture and their you know, their technology and all those things. So yeah, we don't really know if this is a Boba Fett story or if this is just a bounty hunter that maybe he is Mandalorian or maybe he just has Mandalorian armor. We don't really know. But yeah, the trailer looks really interesting. Obviously, they haven't really revealed a lot about the timeline of it. It seems to be taking place after Return of the Jedi, but before The Force Awakens. But they haven't confirmed that I've seen.
From what I saw, it looks like I saw something about the Order 66. I believe is like the main thing going on right now. From what I thought, I read a couple articles. Again, not the biggest fan.
So that's before A New Hope.
Would that be before A New Hope?
Yeah, that's like when all the Jedi were killed, like in Revenge of the Sith, which is the best of the prequels. But
so when does, I don't know, that's where I get too confused on all that part. But I thought I heard something about Order 66 being part of it.
Maybe.
And I don't know. The armor looked interesting because you saw a lot of dead stormtroopers, obviously, or at least their helmets. We assume they're dead. And then
they're just buried in the sand.
It's just their heads. You're right. Yeah.
No, they were playing like with their kids. You know, like where you get buried in the sand when you're at the beach. It's just a bunch of stormtrooper kids that were.
They were. They just left their helmets on like the pike and everything. And they're like, "This looks a good spot." Oh, I shoved the pike through my helmet. Oh, don't tell Vader. So I mean, it'll be interesting. It looks really cool. I mean, for someone who's not a fan of Star Wars. I enjoyed the trailer, honestly, so I'm excited to see where
it looks like they're going to have a chance to maybe get a little bit darker than the movies do,
which is making me happy.
So that's we'll see. You know, it's still on Disney Plus, so we'll see how dark they go. But I'm looking forward to it. Some other news that came out of D23, it's been speculated about for a long time that we were going to get a movie or a trilogy. We got a Disney Plus show that has been confirmed.
Yes.
Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, returning to the role. So I am very excited about that. That has been greenlit, and we'll see that in the next couple of years. There's also one other Star Wars live action show that has been confirmed. It's been confirmed for a while, but they kind of made some more. They talked about a little bit more about it. It's actually going to be kind of a prequel to Rogue One. So that was the movie that came out a few years ago that obviously you didn't like. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. But it's going to focus in on Cassian Andor, who was like the captain of the rebel group there that was kind of leading the assault on that planet to get the Death Star plans and stuff. It's going to focus in on his character.
That'd be interesting.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So three new shows, and then they also revealed a new poster and had some interviews about Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, which is a terrible title. I hate it. But maybe I'll love the movie. I don't know. I hope so.
I really hate the title, but with the Obi-Wan Kenobi one, when they showed him, the opening trailer has to be him on the high ground. That has to, just so they know that we're making fun of ourselves.
No, they are not going to do that.
To. Come on.
100% they're not going to do that.
I hope he's just on a cliffside or something, like staring down.
No.
Yep.
No, they will not do that. I saw something funny online that was like, like Jedi training day, whatever, and it was like, Obi-Wan, about to teach Anakin about the high ground, and then they get distracted and they have to go do something else. So Anakin never learns. It's like, he eventually did.
He learned
about the high ground. Oh,
that's got to be the opening. I'm telling you, just that once the shot of him on a cliff,
please
panning around. He's
please don't. Disney is staying as far away from those prequels as possible.
That is true. They're really going to.
The fact that they're even bringing back Ewan McGregor is a great choice. That is the one thing that I think every Star Wars fan agrees on, is they liked Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Even people like me that I'm not a big fan of the prequels, I do like him in that role. I think there's some interesting stories to tell. But it'll be, kind of interesting to see. They've explored some of that in comics. They've explored it a little bit in some novels and in Star Wars Rebels, which was an animated show that Disney put out. And, Disney did things a little bit differently. When they acquired the rights to Star Wars, they kind of said, everything that we write from here on out is going to be canon. So there had been Star Wars novels, Star Wars comics, everything in the past. They said all of that is legends. None of it counts towards our ongoing story. We're going to take the movies, so the Star Wars, episodes 1 through 6 were all created before Disney got the rights. Everything that's come out since then is Disney. And so basically those 6 movies, and then any of the movies that have come out recently, any of the TV shows, that includes Clone Wars, it includes Star Wars Rebels, it includes a few other things. I really like Clone Wars. All of those things are now canon, and they basically said every book that comes out, every comic that comes out, it's all canon. It hasn't really integrated much with the on-screen stories yet. Whether or not it ever will, we don't know. But basically, everything that they've written there counts. And so, in some cases, they may have written themselves into some corners with different characters and what they might be up to or what they might be doing. So it'll be really interesting. Obviously, that is not the case with something like Marvel or DC. You know, what goes on in the comics doesn't cross over into the movie world. So
that's true.
You know, it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to, you know, obviously the Mandalorian as well as Episode 9. The other 2 series I'm also looking forward to, but I want to see what they do with the Mandalorian as a series before I get too heavily invested in either one of the other series. Just because, you know, unlike with, let's say, Marvel with Kevin Feige, I've pretty much enjoyed everything they've put out. You know, Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, Thor: The Dark World, maybe not great, but I still enjoyed them. I still thought they were good. You know, the newest Star Wars movies, Solo, why did they make it?
Yeah.
You know, I know Episode 8 divided a lot of people. There's parts of that movie I love. There's other parts that I can definitely do without. You know, I really liked Episode 7. I really liked Rogue One, even though you didn't. That's okay.
That was a Han Solo movie. I like that one.
Yeah, it was. I just don't know what purpose it served.
Yeah.
So, anyways, but I'm looking forward to seeing what they come out with next.
I am too. I mean, it'll be interesting. It really will. And jumping back, like you said, going back to the Marvel a little bit, because I want that little break for everybody. Sandwich. See? Marvel, Star Wars, Marvel. So.
Now you made it a Star Wars sandwich, because Marvel is the bread.
Yeah.
I don't like that. You saying Marvel's full of carbs and the only meat is Star Wars? That's what you're saying? I disagree.
Carbs are good for you. Carbs. I mean, otherwise you're gonna fall asleep.
What is that? Scott Pilgrim versus the World? I love that. I love that movie. And there's that scene where he's like, "I can eat garlic bread all the time, but then you get fat." Wait, bread makes you fat? That's how I feel.
The reactions to that. So. Marvel has a lot of shows coming out. We've had a few announcements before, and now we have 3 big shows coming out. 3 more. We have She-Hulk, Moon Knight, and Ms. Marvel.
Yep, and you put them in reverse order.
Yes, I did.
Because they are supposedly they're coming out.
The exact opposite order.
Miss Marvel first, then Moon Knight, and then She-Hulk.
Yeah. So I'm curious a little bit.
Very.
I'll be honest. So I mean, don't get me wrong. Moon Knight. I think I get why they did Moon Knight because let's face it, that's another Punisher. He is just as psychotic as Frank is.
Yeah.
He's willing to kill just as much as Frank is.
Well,
and he's a little
And if you don't know anything about Moon Knight, which I don't know much, but he basically thinks he's like the reincarnated version of an Egyptian god.
Yes, he does.
That so? But he only sometimes believes that. Like he's got like split personality kind of.
He has a lot of. It's either split personality disorder or it's
like the dissociative
disorder. Or something.
Okay.
Yeah, he has something. He's got
a mental disease.
Yeah. Unlike Frank, who has basically we've already commented, he has PTSD.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, yeah. Moon Knight is just psychotic. He's also a billionaire, though.
Hey,
he is rich.
He's Batman.
He's Batman. He's another Batman.
Okay, all right.
But he doesn't mind. He really doesn't mind ripping your throat out and killing you.
Hey,
so
we'll see how dark they go.
Yeah. I'm curious. That is what I'm curious on. Are they going to do kid gloves? Is it going to be he's going to throw like batarang kind of things? And essentially, he does have a batarang, which is a crescent moon that he'll throw out and hit people with. It's a moonerang. I want to see if he's going to call everything moon. The moon bite. The moon bite. What? Shut up with the moon. But everything is like you said. It's essentially a moon theme, and just really if you don't know the character, think of Batman with some mental issues beyond just I lost my parents. He is a billionaire. He fights crime. He is a master of a couple of different martial arts, I believe, as well. So Moon Knight is going to be dark. So do you keep him as your dark character in this universe, or do we try to lighten him up? He doesn't kill now. The batarang just hit him in the head. He's just unconscious. How are they going to play it? I'm interested in.
Yep.
The other thing is Ms. Marvel is going to go to the girl. And she's a little, I believe she's Indian, I believe? Or I can't remember if she's Indian or black. I apologize.
No. It's definitely, I think she's Muslim.
She's Muslim.
And I think it's like, Pakistani or something like that. They'll I'm sure they'll play with it. I'm sure we'll get comments, people yelling at us.
Probably.
But, so she's someone that looks up to Captain Marvel and gets her own powers. I believe she's actually an Inhuman in the comics, and that's where her powers come from. Now, they went down the Inhuman road in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was sort of part of the MCU, but then not really. And then they made an Inhumans TV show, which That is literally the only thing that has come out since Marvel Studios went with Iron Man and they did this whole thing that I did not touch. I heard it was the smelliest and stinkiest and worst thing ever, and I stayed away from it. So I don't even know. There were like 8 episodes that came out.
Yeah.
They even released like the first 2, I think, in IMAX theaters.
Yes, they did.
And basically, if you remember that Phase 3 announcement from like way back in the day, it was like 2013, something like that.
Yeah.
Inhumans was supposed to come out. That was supposed to be a movie on that slate, and then the Disney restructuring, they eventually removed that from the slate. Mm-hmm. The reports were that Kevin Feige was never crazy about the Inhumans. That was not something he wanted to do. It was being pushed by another guy at Disney. And when they split off the TV and movie divisions, Kevin Feige basically said, "I don't want your Inhumans. You can have them." They screwed it up completely. And so it'll be interesting to see if they change her origin at all, if she's still an Inhuman or not.
I mean, it's a good way to try to slide it in, but again, now with the acquisition of Fox, they have...
Make her a mutant.
Yeah. And one of her powers, too, is she can stretch like Mr. Fantastic. So I'm sure they could also try to write gamma radiation or something.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to change her origin story. Now, my question, I'm going to be a little controversial real quick. Did they want this character just to help with the minorities and the whole push, the way they're going with everything nowadays in society? Or is it because they really just think that this is a cool character to have?
I mean,
I don't know.
I think, there's certainly the cynical part of you that looks at movies like Black Panther and Captain Marvel, and starts to look at those things and goes, okay, they're just pandering or whatever. But I hesitate because at the same time, we need that representation, and they made really good movies. Like Black Panther, I think is fantastic. Captain Marvel's okay. Yeah, I didn't love Captain Marvel, but I love Black Panther. I think it's a great movie. They're bringing in the appropriate types of voices for these movies in terms of directors and screenwriters. Like Ryan Coogler was the director of Black Panther. He's done like the Creed movies. He did Fruitvale Station. He's obviously he's very connected to that character, and so I think that it's important that they're doing this. Those characters, a lot of them were only created in the last 15, 20 years.
Yes.
And representation matters. And so, is it maybe they're using it to reach a new audience? Maybe. But, I mean, they're still doing it.
Yeah.
And so, I'm still on board with it. And, they did say, Kevin Feige did say that even though these characters are maybe starting off on a Disney Plus show, that doesn't mean that they won't end up in a movie later. And so... I do think that we'll see Miss Marvel, we'll see Moon Knight on the big screen, and of course the one that's really interesting to me is She-Hulk. A female lawyer who is basically always in Hulk form. She's smart Hulk, and in the comics is a cousin of Bruce Banner.
Yes.
So I don't know how they're gonna tie that in. Will Mark Ruffalo be in that series?
See, I know now, technically, one of the reasons we haven't seen a Hulk movie is Universal owns the rights to the Hulk.
Correct.
So, he can be in other stuff.
He can't... So he cannot... The character of the Hulk cannot be in the title of a movie that is coming out unless Universal is involved. So, like, that first Incredible Hulk movie that came out that is part of the MCU was co-produced by Marvel Studios and Universal. Okay. So it is a Universal release that came out. So that's why any of the additional movies like and it's been the Avengers movies and then Thor Ragnarok. Those are the ones that he's appeared in. Obviously the character of Hulk did not appear in those titles. That's why he's able to appear in the movies.
So that'll be interesting if they can how they're going to bring him out, like you said. Then.
Yeah, I mean,
he can come out. He can do his thing. Mark Ruffalo loves the character.
Well, and especially now that it's kind of smart Hulk all the time, I think that makes the character a little bit easier to play for him.
That's true, and it makes more sense now if she's already a lawyer, like you said. She's intelligent. She holds that intelligence while she's in She-Hulk form. Now, there is a way to get her out of that and make her an angry, aggressive Hulk, which I'm going to be curious if they actually touch on that.
I think they're going to have to.
That'd be cool if she just like hulks out in the middle of a courtroom, like just. Just like beats the plaintiff to death or something. It's like, ooh, yeah.
Nice.
Maybe we can go dark. But again, how dark do they want to go? Because she also has some dark origins with involving rape and a few other things. So again, is Disney gonna touch on that, or is it we're just gonna throw that to the wind?
Yep.
Jessica Jones touched on it, with Kilgrave. So, but that was a Netflix show, and so far they haven't said if those are integrated into the MCU at all. As far as I know, they're not.
Yeah, I think when they were initially being made and while they were on the show, I think that it was kind of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like, we might reference the movies, but the movies don't reference us. I think now that Disney Plus is starting up and that Marvel is going to be producing their own TV shows, they're going to do a clean break. None of those are going to count, and we'll see if they bring those characters back over.
I hope so.
I think Daredevil and Punisher. I think that those are some really interesting characters. I loved, at least season 1 of Jessica Jones. And actually, season 3 was really good too. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch that.
I've only watched the first season of Jessica Jones. I've watched all the Punisher, all of Daredevil, first season of Jessica, first season of Luke and Iron Fist.
Don't talk about Iron Fist. It makes me sad.
It does. There's so much potential there.
Anyways, so I do think that they will eventually revisit those characters. But yeah, all of that was announced at D23. There was also a couple other minor announcements. They announced Kit Harington, who of course is Jon Snow in Game of Thrones, is going to be in the Eternals as a character that I had never heard of. So why don't you tell me about the character he's going to be?
This is also my realm too now at this point. So I do like the Eternals. I don't know much on it, but he's going to be Black Knight, I believe it said. At first when he was... People were like, oh my gosh, he's coming out. They thought he was going to be Wolverine, which I had called it the moment they said that. I was like, he's not Wolverine. That's not going to happen. He's a little too old, I think. No offense to him. I think if they do Wolverine, they're going to need someone that can do a good 15 years plus.
I mean, he's probably only like 30.
He's 32.
And Hugh Jackman is like, he's almost 50 and he was still doing it.
It's Hugh Jackman.
Oh.
Look how,
that's true.
Him. I mean, he aged like a freaking fine wine. He's going to be like, he's like Sean Connery. He's going to hit like 90. He's going to look the same. Like Sean Connery does too. I had the Sean Connery reference in there. So, again, I don't know much on the Eternals. This is basically going to be another space movie though, and he's just filling in one of the roles. I really don't know much on Black Knight, so it's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna actually read up on the Eternals later, try to see who all these characters are that they're actually gonna bring out, because I know.
Tell us who it is.
Yeah, someone tell us. I know at one point Keanu Reeves, they were supposedly talking to him. I don't believe
it. Feels like, well, I've heard different reports, and I've heard people. I think it might even be a quote from Kevin Feige. I don't remember who, and they just said they talked to Keanu Reeves before every one of the movies because they're like, we want you in our universe. They just haven't found a good fit yet. So
he's like, what character loses a dog? What? I need to lose a dog.
That's my only way to get my motivation.
Or I need to be the chosen one.
Yeah,
wait a minute.
And really the final thing that came out of D23 that I saw is just they did actually date the Black Panther sequel, Black Panther 2, is coming out in May of 2022. So the previous announcement had done movies all the way up through 2021. So now that is expected to be the first movie that will get either in Phase 5 or whether or not Phase 4 extends out to that point. But Black Panther 2 now officially on the books for 2022, moving into that May release date, which is where they've dropped major movies like Iron Man, The Avengers, Captain America. I think it's very clear. Black Panther made over $1 billion at the box office. I think that they are saying we are hanging our hat on that character, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. Ryan Coogler's coming back. All of the principal members of the cast are coming back. So I'm really excited for that.
I am. It's going to be a nice movie to have, and like you said, it's going to be hopefully still part of the Phase 4. Hopefully, they don't switch right to Phase 5 at the end of it. I know they're going to do shorter time frames for everything, so we'll see. It'll be interesting. On that note, guys, you've been jabbering for like a good while now.
It's been a while.
So we're gonna go ahead and end it.
It's been a bit. It's been a bit. A while. I got crossed between saying it's been a while and it's been a bit, and I said it's been a wit.
We got wit now, guys. So it's been a wit.
There we go.
But yeah, guys, definitely. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe. Anything we've gotten wrong, of course, let us know so we can maybe adjust that for the next time.
Yep.
We can say sorry to whoever we upset, piss off, whatever.
Hey, and I do want to take a moment. We talked about it on previous podcasts, but I'm wearing one of those shirts now. Simplistic Geek. Out in Gatlinburg, so this is a sweet one of Captain America wielding Mjolnir and the shield over here. He's worthy. So this is actually when we walked into that store. This is the first shirt that caught my eye. He kind of had him on the wall, and I was like, I need that shirt. And then I bought a bunch more. So you'll see more shirts from Simplistic Geek. But check them out. I know they've got an Amazon page. and a few other places that you can see their designs. So if you're interested in a cool shirt like this, Simplistic Geek. Yeah, it's really high quality shirt too. So.
I liked it. Yeah, I was wearing the Spider one I think last week or last time we did this.
Yeah, when we did our board games that'll probably come out after this.
Yeah, it's gonna come after this because I didn't realize. Well, I did, but I have so much editing. I barely started it, so it'll be fun. I need someone else to help me edit. Anyway, so on that note, guys,
drop it in the comments.
Yeah, if you want help editing, do
you live in San Antonio?
You live in San Antonio. We can use some help. But on that note, guys, enjoy y'all's week. Enjoy, watching all this Marvel content coming out.
Watching until next year.
You know what? Watch Sony and Marvel bicker like old parents over their child.
And for the Star next couple Wars, weeks. We're getting that stuff in like October.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's our next one on the slate. Even though he's not a big Star Wars guy, you'll get me reviewing The Mandalorian on our channel. We'll be talking about it. So
But on that one, I think we're good.
Until next time, right?
Y'all take it easy. Have a good one.